Good morning, ma'am. You are
Good morning.
Yurisbel Perez Leyva.
Yes,
Ma'am, you're charged with prostitution. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you.
on November 1st, 2024, officers were working in an undercover capacity while conducting a vice investigation at Glamour Girls, a sexual-oriented business located at 14428 Hempstead Road in Harris County, Texas. While inside, officer was approached by the defendant. The two engaged in a conversation that turned sexual in nature. The defendant asked the officer if he wanted to go to the VIP room in return for $120. When officer asked what it would include, the defendant replied, "Me." Officer told the defendant that he wanted to fuck, and the defendant smiled at him and said, "Okay, everything for $400. The defendant agreed to have straight sex with the officer for a fee of $400.
Ma'am, I'm going to find that there's probable cause to go forward with the case. I'm going to order you as a condition of your bond not to engage in like-kind activity. If I find that you continue with this, I'm going to put you in jail. You will not get any more PR bonds. Do you understand?
Okay.
Would you like to apply for a court-appointed lawyer, ma'am? Okay, we will give you an application. I need to know how much money you make a month. I will take a look at it. And then if you qualify, I will give you a lawyer today. I'll have you sign a receipt with Victoria, and then we will have you take a seat in the jury box. Do not leave until you sign our bond conditions. Otherwise, I'll issue a warrant for your arrest. When you apply for a court-appointed lawyer, you have to qualify. If you make too much money, you just don't qualify. In the affidavit you filled out, you're stating that you make $8,000 a month.
Yes, sir.
This is true.
Si eso es verdad,
Don't qualify
no
for an appointed
califica para un
lawyer,
abogado
man.
de oficio. Quedan más tiempo. O solo mire el juez, por favor.
You really make $8,000
¿Ya
a
gana
month?
$8,000 por mes?
Es que eso es algo que no,
Solo mire el juez. Y
que
hable
no
con él.
sabría decirle porque
I want you to tell me the truth.
It's just something I wouldn't know what to tell you. Me gustaría que me diga la verdad.
I don't know how much money
Solo usted sabe
all
cuánto dinero
sources.
gana.
I just need you to tell me the truth. Do you really make $8,000 a
¿Ya gana
month?
como $8,000 por mes?
es que no sabría decirle porque no sé exactamente lo que hago por día. Varía, en el día puedo ser exactamente $100, depende.
Well, le pido por favor que no me mire a mí, solo mire al juez. I couldn't tell you with any certainty because it varies, my income from day to day. I could make on one day $100, but it depends.
I don't want you to engage in this
Yo no quiero
behavior
que se involucre en
anymore.
este comportamiento ya más.
I want you to understand
Yo
that
quiero
if you
que usted
continue
entienda
with this,
que
I will
usted
put you in
continúa
jail.
con esto, no va a
You are
poner
not
en
allowed to continue with
no
this type of
va a poder continuar con ese tipo de
income, so to speak. Do you understand?
si lo así, ¿usted entiende?
Ujú.
Tiene que hablar.
Knowing
Señor,
that.
señor, tiene que hablar.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
Knowing that,
Pero sabiendo eso,
what kind of income do you have coming in? Are you married?
¿qué ingreso tienes? ¿Eres casada?
Sí,
Yes.
What is your husband?
¿A qué se dedica su esposo?
estamos casados, pero no mantengo una relación con él.
I'm married, but I don't maintain a relationship with him.
Get any income from
¿Usted
him?
recibe ingreso de parte de él?
No.
No.
Do you have children?
¿Usted tiene hijos?
Sí, pero en Cuba.
Yes, but in Cuba.
Guess what we can do is I can send you home with an application and you take time, think about it, but I need to know
Yo
what your
necesito
true
saber
income is.
que en realidad cuál es su
And
verdadero
then if you
ingreso.
qualify, we'll give you a lawyer, but I really need to know what your income is. And
Ya necesito saber.
8,000, just you don't
8,000.
qualify. So I'll send you with one, but I want you to understand, you're not engaged in this behavior.
No se puede involucrar en esa
So when you fill out this application, it's not taking this into account.
consideración.
Do you understand?
¿Se entendió?
Sí, señor.
No more of this.
Ya no más de esto.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Please.
Hacia la izquierda, por favor. Agarre su bolsa.
All right, you are Antonio Vasquez Perez. Shh. You were charged with driving while intoxicated. You're facing up to a year in jail and or a $4,000 fine. You guys have worked out an agreement. They're offering you 3 days in jail, credit for the 2 days that you've done. You need to understand, sir, that this charge will go on your record. It will be there for the rest of your life. If you were ever pulled over in a car and an officer comes to you and they smell alcohol, they're going to look at your record. They're going to see a prior DWI. What do you think they're going to do to you?
They'll grab me and take me to jail.
What we're doing today, from now on, you are facing a minimum of 90 days in jail. If you are not in this country with permission and you go to jail for that kind of time, you will get an immigration detainer. So if I were you, I would never get in a car, even if you've had a sip of alcohol, because you are almost guaranteeing a bad outcome. Do you understand?
Yes.
You are giving up the right to a trial, right to compel witnesses to testify on your behalf, confront and cross-examine your accusers. If you are not a citizen, there are possible immigration consequences. You can be deported, excluded from the country, denied naturalization. You give up the right to appeal. Shh. Once you accept this agreement, you can never change this or undo this. It will go on your record. It'll be there for the rest of your life. Do you understand?
Yes.
This is what you want to do.
¿Sé lo que se quiere hacer? Yes.
How do you plead to the offense of driving while intoxicated? Guilty or not guilty? I will find you guilty, send it you to the agreement. Mr. Vasquez Perez, what do you do for a living?
¿A qué se dedica?
Más trabajo.
¿Qué tipo?
Nada.
Remodeling windows.
And how much money do you make a month?
2,000 a month.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I got to do what about the fee?
He doesn't have a driver's license. I think at $2,000 a month. I don't know if that's net or gross. And then
Anytime someone's arrested without a license, they create a number for them to be able to put them in. So he has a license number now.
yes. Yes. So can we ask him if that's his net or his gross?
Si eso es ingresos antes o después de impuestos. How's that?
Eso es lo que es limpio. Eso es lo que gana limpio.
Es lo que gana después de haber pagado impuestos, lo que le queda.
Sí.
Yes.
¿Y cuánto tienen niños, hijos?
No, no.
No. Okay. There we go.
The reason this is important, Mr. Vasquez Perez, is because every time you pick up a DWI, especially with a 0.15 or above, it is true that you had a 0.15, right?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to understand that I will do one thing for you here. You will be required to pay court costs, but I will waive the DPS fine, fees, and surcharges. You're gonna go out of here you're gonna be required to pay around $400, but I'm waiving around $4,500 in fines and fees and surcharges. If you come back on a second DWI, you will be looking at around $7,000 to $8,000 in fines and fees and surcharges. So get ready. If you act like a child, then we'll treat you like a child and put you up on my knee and spank you like a little child with jail time and a ton of money that you're going to be responsible for. All we ask is don't get into a car if you're drinking. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
4,500. I'll pay for the rest. Yeah, the intrusive enhancement. What is the one thing I asked you not to do? And what happened? A slip up is perhaps one time. You have multiple times. That's not just a slip up. That's, I don't care. I'm going to do it. Guess what happens now? Goes with you.
He understands. I talked to him, it can happen again.
Tell him to go ahead.
Stephen, don't send it down. I'm back in a minute. I'll text you.
Okay.
All right.
This child may live.
So here's what the judge is saying. He's not gonna be able to set a bond until Louis is here.
It's that important. I mean, he's known since 2000 that these things have been pending.
At one point, he tried to take care of it, but then
Trying is never good enough. It's like, unless you're playing
It's
like
not
horseshoes or hand grenades, right?
maybe an adult, but he's more in a childlike mind.
Yeah, we'll
He's
be
not
back on
very
Monday.
smart.
Get it, but understand that I have to make him aware of a lot of things. And if I don't tell him and I just give him a bond and he takes off, well, I didn't know. This person never told me,
I'm standing responsible for
No,
him.
ma'am.
but I can't put you in jail if it doesn't happen. Not that I want to.
I'll be back on
We'll be
Monday.
back on Monday and we'll be more than happy.
I understand that you're concerned and I appreciate your concern and I appreciate you coming. I'm not saying no to a bond, but I need his body here. And
This is my little brother.
I understand. It's not the end. We're going to come back in just a couple days and we'll take care of it. Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm sorry if I spoke
No,
up.
no, no. I'm happy that you came. Okay? Really. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you for
Of
your
course.
time.
Meet you outside. I'll meet you outside.
Mike, and just tell them it's every person. It's not just them. Every person that comes here. I understand, totally. Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we get on Monday.
Friday.
Happy Friday. Are you here for Brian?
I am, Judge.
We were gonna put it on for Monday for you.
I appreciate that, but you know what? I got out of my forfeit thing early, so I thought I'd come back by and make everyone's life easier.
Well, thank you.
She was brought up anyways, Judge. So Ms. Visor was on bond for theft in this court, picked up a felony. You raised the bond. She picked up 2 new felonies.
Yeah, I'm gonna, I guess, do the same thing again.
That's fine. Do you need to talk to her and monitor or anything? I mean,
No, I guess
I'm just gonna go back and tell her she messed up, and I anticipate
she picked up a robbery.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
the robbery was already there, and then she picked up 2 new thefts. Not great, but
Oh, so what happened?
Visor.
The robbery or the?
No, the 2 new
thefts?
thefts. What happened?
Judge.
It should be like $10. You know?
like a 2B from a previous incident that
So it looks like she was at JCPenney and was observed. I think that she took clothes into the changing room and put them on under her clothes and then walked out. She took, and she also had in her possession a magnetic sensor remover. She also went to a Bath and Body Works and placed $700 worth of candles and fragrances in a bag and left without paying.
Okay, so I'm gonna make it 10,000 too, and just let me know if she runs off. She's at no bond on the cases over there. You're set for,
we're not even retained on the new cases yet, so we'll approach on the old case that we are on. and Go from there.
are you gonna
You retained on the new case? Sorry.
withdraw from the cases upstairs? You're gonna stay on it? Okay,
Hopefully, unless something drastically changes.
you plan on, I guess, getting off
We'll
those,
see this one through. It's easier on everyone than having to negotiate all that, so.
whatever you want. I mean, I'm
Appreciate
happy
that,
to point if you want to as well.
I appreciate that, Judge.
Just let us know what you want to
Will
do.
do.
And we'll set you for, I guess, the day after the felony. Yeah, okay.
And then she's approaching on an extradition case. It's one of my clients. I'm gonna stand here and watch.
Hey. Yes. Bye.
Good morning, Judge.
Morning, Judge.
Hey, good morning.
On Mr. Moreno, I'm sorry, Judge?
I just need to write this down.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Jason Moreno, yes, sir. He just wants that I know the state states that they're opposed to any bond.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Do you mind bringing out?
Judge, I'm sorry.
Hey, Catherine, I'm bringing them out real quick.
Okay.
She's also opposed to
I'm getting some CLE.
self-study.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are they all filled out? Do you know?
Yeah, and then that's why. Hey, man, let him do it.
All right. You are Jason Moreno. Good morning, Ms. Moreno. So I see that you have a felony fraud that you're facing upstairs. Looks like you're wanted out of state. I have no idea what for. I know that your lawyer's asking me to set you a bond. I don't know. I don't know you. I've never met you before, but we're going to get to know you real quick. How you look on paper is really going to tell me who you are. So that'll be a big determining factor. Okay.
He's wanted from Contra Costa County, California for carjacking and robbery. The case out there has a $200,000 bond. Additionally, in that case, he and a co-defendant held a complaining witness at gunpoint and stole his car.
Allegedly, Judge.
And Judge, he had a juvenile theft that he did a felony theft that he did a deferred on and a juvenile robbery that he did probation on. So I am opposed to a
My
bond on
only
this.
concern, Mr. Moreno, is public safety. And they're telling me here that you got a carjacking case where you allegedly point a gun at someone? Hell no. You got to understand that. That's.
Understood. He wanted to know what it would be if he could pay it. At this point, I
No
believe.
B.
Gotcha.
No B.
At this point, he will waive extradition, correct?
So understand you've made bond on the case upstairs. So what that means now is that California has 14 days to come get you as of the day that you waive formal extradition. Then if they don't come get you within that time, then you will be released. But you got to understand that if they do come get you, you have to stay in touch with counsel, because if you remain out of touch and they revoke your bond on the case upstairs here, the situation you are in now is going to be the exact situation you will be in California. So you got to stay in touch. All right.
The only thing about that is they took my phone, they're not letting me write down numbers. So how would I go about doing it if I can't get any information?
We'll get a number.
So you'll get paperwork here. Make sure to write down everybody's phone number here, and then we can give you paperwork here as well.
Family's here, Judge. I'll make up the numbers that he.
Yeah, you'll be able to work things out, but just don't forget. Don't be Helen Keller, because it's just not going to go well. Okay, man. Good luck. Thanks.
Thank you, Judge.
You too.
He's got to sign.
Ricardo. Oh.
So you kneel back out?
No. You're waiving formal extradition, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, we're good.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump right into it. Today, we're going deep into the heart of a Texas courtroom.
3 real cases, straight from the dockets, each one a window into how justice plays out, in the real world.
And believe me, These aren't your typical by-the-book legal scenarios. We've got a prostitution sting that takes an unexpected turn.
A DUI case that's way more than meets the eye.
And an extradition case that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.
So if you're ready for a legal thriller, you've come to the right place.
First up, we're heading into a case that sounds straight out of a crime drama. A prostitution sting operation at a place called, wait for it, Glamour Girls.
Ah, the classic sting operation. Undercover officers often use these tactics in prostitution cases, gathering evidence, building a case for probable cause.
Probable cause. For those of us who aren't lawyers, what exactly does that mean?
Right, good point. It basically means enough evidence to believe a crime has been committed. And in Texas, prostitution is no small matter.
So what are we talking about penalty-wise?
Up to 6 months in jail and a fine that could reach $2,000. Not something to take lightly.
Definitely not. And in this case, the alleged evidence centers around a conversation between an undercover officer and the defendant. What went down?
Well, according to the officer's testimony, the defendant offered a trip to the VIP room for $120. When asked what that included, the defendant simply replied, "Me."
Okay, pretty straightforward so far.
Then it gets interesting. The officer mentioned wanting to puff, probably referring to smoking, and the defendant said, "Okay, everything for $400. That exchange became the basis of the prostitution charge.
Got it. So the judge found enough evidence for probable cause based on that conversation, but it sounds like the judge was also interested in something beyond just, determining guilt or innocence.
Absolutely. The judge seemed focused on deterring future prostitution. He directly warned the defendant, stating that if she continued down this path, she'd be facing jail time.
So a bit of a warning shot, huh?
Exactly. But then things took a rather unexpected turn.
Oh, do tell.
It came out that the defendant claimed to be making $8,000 a month.
Whoa, hold on. Why is that a big deal?
Well, because she was applying for a court-appointed lawyer. If her income was too high, she wouldn't qualify for that legal assistance.
So that seemingly simple income claim throws a wrench into the whole thing. Did the judge buy it?
He seemed pretty skeptical, to be honest. He even expressed concern about whether she was being truthful.
That's interesting. And then there's the part that really had me scratching my head. The judge advises her to not include that alleged prostitution income on her application.
Yes, that's right. He specifically told her to exclude it when filling out the application. Now that raises some interesting questions, doesn't it? Was he suggesting she omit crucial information?
Potentially misleading the court.
Right. Or was he, trying to find a way to ensure she had legal representation while also discouraging her from engaging in, potentially illegal activities? It's a tricky situation, and we're left to wonder about the judge's true motivations.
It's amazing how a case that starts off seemingly straightforward can suddenly become so layered and complex.
It really highlights the dilemmas judges face on a daily basis, trying to balance the letter of the law with the human realities of each case.
Speaking of complex, let's move on to our second case. A DUI case that initially seemed pretty open and shut.
Yeah, at first glance, it appeared like a pretty standard DUI. The defendant was offered a plea deal, 3 days in jail with credit for the 2 days already served.
Seems straightforward enough, so what's the twist?
Well, the judge decided to give the defendant a very stern warning about the future consequences of another DUI.
Oh, laying down the law, huh? What did he say exactly?
He made it clear that any further slip-ups would lead to, let's just say some very unpleasant outcomes. He mentioned increased police scrutiny, even the possibility of immigration detainers. He really drove home the point that this wasn't a slap on the wrist.
Whoa, okay. So the judge is emphasizing that this isn't just about punishment for this one incident, but about deterring future behavior. But why was that warning particularly relevant in this case? Was there something specific about the defendant's situation?
This warning really highlights how a DUI conviction can have a domino effect. It's not just about the immediate penalty, it can impact various aspects of a person's life, job prospects, driving privileges, even their immigration status.
So it's a ripple effect, potentially impacting many areas of their life.
Precisely. And then, just when you think you got a handle on things, we get another surprise. It's revealed that the defendant works in remodeling, making $2,000 a month. This prompts the judge to ask whether that's net or gross income. Now, I have to admit, I needed a quick refresher on what that means exactly.
Me too. It's one of those things you hear but might not always remember the difference between.
Right. So net income is what you actually take home after taxes and deductions. Gross income is your total earnings before anything is taken out.
Ah, okay. So the difference is what you keep versus what you earn overall. Why did that matter to the judge?
Well, it directly affects the defendant's ability to pay fines and fees. A lower net income might mean they struggle to pay those penalties.
Makes sense. So how did the judge react to this income revelation?
This is where it gets really interesting. He takes this unexpected approach. He waives a significant chunk of the fines while simultaneously giving a very, very stern warning about future behavior. He even said, and I quote, "If you act like a child, we will treat you like a child and put you over my knee and spank you like a little child with time and a ton of money."
Wow, talk about tough love. It's like he's giving the defendant a second chance, but making it absolutely crystal clear that there won't be a third.
Exactly. This combination of leniency and threat really makes you think about what's most effective in these situations. Is it the financial penalty, the fear of even harsher consequences?
It definitely sparked some interesting questions about how judges approach justice and what they hope to achieve with their decisions.
It does. And it leads us perfectly into our final case today, which takes us into the world of extradition.
All right, hit me with it. What's this extradition case all about?
Well, this one starts with an air of mystery. We have a defendant who is wanted out of state, but initially we have no idea what the charges are.
Ooh, intriguing. Extradition, just to be clear, that's the process of one state requesting the transfer of a person in custody in another state to face criminal charges, right?
Exactly. It's basically interstate cooperation in law enforcement.
So right off the bat, we're dealing with a more complex legal landscape because it involves multiple states. And then, to add to the drama, the defense attorney requests bond, but the prosecution is having none of it. They immediately oppose it.
Yeah, that's a pretty common back and forth in these situations. The defense trying to secure their client's temporary release while the prosecution argues to keep them in custody, often citing concerns about flight risk or potential danger to the community.
It's like watching a legal tug-of-war unfold in real time. And then, finally, the bombshell drops. We find out the out-of-state charges are serious. Carjacking and robbery with a whopping $200,000 bond.
And to make matters even more intense, there's an allegation of a gun being involved.
No wonder the prosecution was adamant about keeping this guy behind bars. With charges like that, public safety becomes a major concern, right?
Absolutely. And the judge in this case specifically mentioned the carjacking allegation and the potential danger to the community if the defendant were to be released. It's a heavy weight on the judge's shoulders, trying to balance individual rights with the need to protect the public.
It's a tough call, for sure. And to complicate matters even further, we learned that the defendant has a prior criminal history. Juvenile theft, felony theft, and robbery. Not exactly a spotless record.
Right. And unfortunately, those prior offenses can play a significant role in a judge's decision-making process. They can create a pattern of behavior that raises concerns about the defendant's likelihood of reoffending.
So, facing these serious charges and a past that doesn't work in his favor, the defendant ultimately decides to waive extradition, meaning he agrees to be transferred to California to face those charges. It seems like he's resigned to his fate at that point.
Waiving extradition can sometimes be a strategic move. It can expedite the process and potentially give the defendant more time to prepare a defense in the state where the alleged crimes occurred.
But even though he agreed to go to California, the judge still felt compelled to issue a rather, well, let's just say, memorable warning to the defendant. He told him, and I quote, "Don't be Helen Keller." That's certainly one way to make a point.
It definitely grabbed my attention, and despite its rather unconventional delivery, that warning highlights a crucial point: the absolute importance of communication and representation in legal proceedings.
So why was that warning so vital, even though he was headed to California?
Because legal cases, especially those involving serious charges, can be incredibly complex and move quickly. There are deadlines, paperwork, hearings, and if a defendant loses contact with their lawyer, things can go south very quickly. They might miss critical information or opportunities to present their case effectively.
It's a reminder that even when a legal process seems relatively straightforward, there can be hidden complexities and potential pitfalls. And having legal representation can make all the difference in navigating those challenges.
Absolutely. And I think this particular case highlights the judge's role in ensuring that defendants understand their rights and the potential consequences of their decisions. The judge's warning, however unusual it might have sounded, demonstrated a genuine concern for the defendant's well-being within the legal system.
It's good to know that judges can go beyond the strict letter of the law and offer some guidance, or even, dare I say, wisdom, to the people standing before them.
It definitely shows a more human side to the legal process, which can sometimes feel very impersonal and intimidating. But remember, we have one more case to cover, and this one takes us into an area that's becoming increasingly relevant in the criminal justice system: mental health.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more about this final case and what we can learn from it.
Well, it all starts with the charge of criminal mischief, which might sound a bit vague at first, but it essentially means intentionally damaging someone else's property.
So we're talking about vandalism.
You could put it that way, but what makes this case particularly interesting is the context. It's not just a simple act of, spray painting graffiti or breaking a window.
Okay, I'm sensing a deeper story here. Fill me in.
So the defendant in this case is accused of damaging a door at a local business. And according to the prosecution, this wasn't just random destruction. The defendant was allegedly trying to break into the business.
Uh-huh. So there's an attempted burglary element woven into this criminal mischief charge. No wonder this case caught your eye.
Exactly. It raises the stakes and adds another layer of complexity. But there's another twist that makes this case even more compelling.
Another one. Lay it on me.
So the defense attorney makes a rather unusual request. He asks the judge to order a mental health evaluation for the defendant.
That's interesting. It seems like there might be more to this case than meets the eye. What's the reasoning behind requesting a mental health evaluation in a situation like this?
Mental health evaluations in criminal cases are designed to assess two key things: the defendant's competency to stand trial and their mental state at the time of the alleged offense.
So it's about determining if they understand the charges against them, if they can participate in their own defense, and whether their mental state played a role in their actions.
You got it. And in this case, the defense attorney believes there might be underlying mental health issues that contributed to the defendant's actions. This evaluation could help determine whether those issues impacted their ability to form criminal intent, which is a key element in many criminal charges.
I see. So we're not just looking at the act itself, but also the mental state of the person who committed the act.
Precisely. And in this particular case, the judge granted the request for a mental health evaluation. He recognized that it could be crucial in understanding the defendant's actions and ensuring a fair trial.
That makes sense. But even with the evaluation ordered, the defendant still has to deal with the immediate consequences of the criminal mischief charge, right?
Of course. And that's where the issue of bond comes in. The defense attorney argued that the defendant should be released on a personal recognizance bond, meaning they wouldn't have to pay any money to be released while awaiting trial.
So essentially released on their own promise to appear in court.
Right. But as you might imagine, the prosecution wasn't too keen on that idea. They opposed the request, citing concerns about the defendant's potential risk to the community, especially given the alleged attempted burglary. They believed a higher bond was necessary to ensure the defendant showed up for court and to protect public safety.
It sounds like we're back to that familiar tug of war between individual rights and public safety concerns. It's a tough balancing act for judges.
It certainly is. And in this case, the judge had to weigh those competing interests while also considering the potential impact of the pending mental health evaluation. It was a complex decision with no easy answer.
So what did the judge decide?
He chose a middle ground. He set a bond of $5,000, which was somewhere between the defense's request for a personal recognizance bond and the prosecution's desire for a higher bond.
So it sounds like he was trying to strike a balance, acknowledging the seriousness of the charges and the potential for flight risk, but also leaving room for the possibility that the mental health evaluation could reveal mitigating factors.
Exactly. It was a nuanced decision that reflects the complexities of the case and the judge's attempt to navigate a multitude of factors. And this case, I think, is a perfect example of how mental health is becoming an increasingly important consideration in our legal system.
It really highlights the fact that there's often more to a story than meets the eye, and that understanding the underlying causes of behavior can be crucial in achieving a just outcome.
I couldn't agree more. It underscores the evolving role of the courts in addressing not just the legal aspects of a case, but also the human factors that contribute to events.
Well, this deep dive into these Texas courtroom cases has been fascinating. We've seen how a simple prostitution sting can raise complex ethical questions, how a DUI case can have far-reaching consequences, how extradition cases can involve intricate legal battles across state lines, and how mental health evaluations are playing a more prominent role in criminal proceedings.
It's been quite a journey through the legal landscape, and I think it's a good reminder that behind all these cases, behind all the laws and procedures, are real people, each with their own unique story.
Absolutely. And understanding those stories and the complexities they bring is crucial to ensuring a fair and just legal system.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So we've seen how judges handle these, cases involving prostitution, driving under the influence. But now let's shift gears a bit. We've got a case that crosses state lines. It's an extradition case. And this one really had me intrigued from the get-go. We knew we had a defendant, a wanted man, but initially the charges were a complete mystery.
Adds a layer of suspense, doesn't it? And just to clarify for everyone listening, extradition is that legal process where one state says, hey, we need that person in your custody. They've got charges to face here. It's all about states cooperating, working together in law enforcement.
So right away, things are more complex, multiple states involved. And then, like it wasn't interesting enough already, the defense attorney goes and requests bond, but the prosecution, they shut it down immediately. Totally opposed.
Classic courtroom drama right there. Defense fighting for their client, trying to get them some temporary freedom, while the prosecution's all about keeping them locked up, usually worried about them skipping town or being a danger to the community.
It's like a legal tug of war playing out right there in the courtroom, and then bam, the charges from out of state, they're serious. Carjacking and robbery with a bond set at a whopping $200,000.
And to add fuel to the fire, there's an allegation that a gun was involved.
No wonder the prosecution was fighting tooth and nail to keep this guy behind bars. With charges like that, public safety is a huge concern.
Absolutely. And the judge even specifically mentioned the carjacking and the danger it presented to the community if this guy was let out. It's a tough spot for a judge, balancing individual rights with keeping everyone safe.
It's a real dilemma. And then to add another wrinkle, we learn that this defendant's got a past. Juvenile theft, felony theft, robbery. Not exactly a clean slate.
Unfortunately, those prior offenses, they often weigh heavily on a judge's decision. They paint a picture, a pattern of behavior that makes you wonder, will they do it again if we let them out?
So, facing these serious charges and a history that's working against him, the defendant makes a decision. He waives extradition, agrees to go to California and face those charges. Sounds like he's accepted what's coming.
It's a strategic move sometimes, speeds things up, and maybe it gives the defendant more time to work on their defense in California, where it all went down.
But even with that agreement, the judge, he throws in a curveball, a warning to the defendant. Don't be Helen Keller. That's one way to put it.
It definitely caught my attention, but beyond the colorful language, there's a crucial point here. Communication is everything in these legal proceedings.
So, why was that warning so important, even though he was heading to California anyway?
Legal cases, especially the serious ones, they can be like a whirlwind. Deadlines, paperwork, hearings, it's a lot. And if you lose touch with your lawyer, you're in trouble. You might miss something vital, a chance to present your case.
It's a good reminder that even when things seem simple, there's often a whole lot going on behind the scenes in the legal world. Having a lawyer, someone in your corner, makes all the difference.
Totally agree. And this case shows how a judge can, go beyond the strict rules and try to guide the defendant, make sure they don't make things worse for themselves. It's a human touch in a system that can feel pretty cold and impersonal.
It's reassuring to see that human side, that judges aren't just robots blindly applying the law. But you know what? We've got one more case to unpack, and this one delves into an area that's becoming more and more important: mental health.
It's a crucial aspect of the justice system that often gets overlooked, and this case really brings it to the forefront.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about this case and what makes it so significant.
Well, the charge itself is criminal mischief. Now, that might sound a bit vague, but it boils down to intentionally damaging someone else's property.
So vandalism, like graffiti and broken windows.
Yeah, you could say that. But what makes this case interesting is the context. It goes beyond your typical act of vandalism.
Okay, I'm sensing a deeper story here. Tell me more.
The defendant is accused of damaging a door at a local business, but it wasn't random. The prosecution claims he was trying to break in.
So there's an attempted burglary element mixed in with this criminal mischief charge? That definitely ups the ante.
You got it. It adds a whole new dimension to the case. But wait, there's more. And this is where things get really interesting.
Don't leave me hanging.
The defense attorney throws a curveball. He asks the judge to order a mental health evaluation for the defendant.
That's interesting. It suggests there might be more to this case than just the act itself. Why would they request a mental health evaluation?
Well, these evaluations serve a critical purpose in criminal cases. They help assess whether the defendant is competent to stand trial. Can they understand the charges against them? Can they participate in their own defense? And the evaluation also looks at their mental state at the time of the alleged crime.
So it's not just about whether they did it, but also their state of mind at the time.
Exactly. And in this case, the defense attorney believes there might be underlying mental health issues that could have played a role in the defendant's actions. The evaluation could help determine if those issues impacted their ability to form criminal intent, which is a key element in many criminal charges.
So we're delving into the psychology of the defendant, trying to understand what might have led them to this point.
Precisely. And the judge in this case, he recognized the potential significance of the mental health evaluation and granted the request. He understood that it could be crucial in ensuring a fair trial and understanding the defendant's actions.
That makes sense. But even with the evaluation ordered, the defendant still faces those criminal mischief charges. What happens next?
Well, that's where the issue of bond comes in. The defense attorney argued for a personal recognizance bond, basically releasing the defendant without having to pay any money on their promise to show up for court.
Sounds like they were trying to avoid having the defendant sit in jail while waiting for the mental health evaluation and trial.
Exactly, but the prosecution, not so thrilled about that idea. They opposed it, concerned about the potential danger to the community, especially with that attempted burglary element looming. They wanted a higher bond to ensure the defendant wouldn't disappear and to protect the public.
That familiar tension between individual rights and public safety, it's a constant theme in these cases.
It really is. And the judge had a tough decision to make, trying to balance those competing interests while considering the mental health evaluation.
So what was the verdict?
The judge chose a middle ground, setting a bond of $5,000, not as high as the prosecution wanted, but not a personal recognizance bond either.
Sounds like he was trying to find a compromise, acknowledging the seriousness of the charges while leaving some leeway for the mental health evaluation to potentially change the course of the case.
It's a nuanced decision, and it shows how mental health is increasingly becoming a factor that judges need to consider. It's not always a black and white legal issue anymore. There's a human element, and that's reflected in the judge's decision.
This case is a powerful reminder that there's often more going on beneath the surface, and that understanding the complexities of mental health is crucial in our pursuit of justice. It's about seeing the whole picture, not just the crime itself.
Couldn't have put it better myself. In this case, it leads us to some important final thoughts about the legal system as a whole and what we've learned from these Texas courtroom stories.
Man, what a ride through the Texas court system this has been. We've gone from undercover stings to extradition battles and even delved into the world of mental health evaluations. It's incredible how each case can be so different, yet they all shed light on how justice works, how judges make those tough calls day in and day out.
It's been a real eye-opener, hasn't it? Seeing the law in action, the real-life drama unfolding in these courtrooms. And for me, one of the biggest takeaways has been the reminder that behind every case, every charge, every legal argument, there are real people. It's easy to get lost in the procedures and the jargon, but these are lives we're talking about.
Absolutely. It's easy to forget that sometimes, when you're reading a case file or listening to a legal debate, there's a whole human story behind it. People whose lives are being directly impacted by these decisions, by the judge's gavel.
And these cases, they often reflect bigger issues too, societal trends, problems that go way beyond the courtroom. Take the prostitution case, for example. It raises questions about how we as a society view sex work, how we regulate it. Or the DUI case, it highlights the impact of substance abuse, the ripple effect it has on families and communities.
And the extradition case, that showed us how crimes can cross borders, how legal battles can span multiple states. It's a reminder that the law isn't just about one place, one time. It's interconnected, constantly evolving.
You hit the nail on the head. These cases aren't just isolated incidents. They're windows into bigger trends, challenges that our society is grappling with, and they remind us that the law is always changing, adapting to those challenges.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing, the key takeaway you hope our listeners will walk away with?
I hope they'll remember that being informed, being engaged with the legal system, it's crucial. Whether they're personally involved in a case or just following the news, I encourage them to look beyond the headlines, to ask questions, to consider different perspectives. Don't just accept things at face value.
That's such a powerful message. It's a call to action, to really engage with the law, to understand it, to question it, and to think critically about how it impacts our lives.
Exactly, because understanding the law isn't just about memorizing rules and regulations. It's about recognizing the human impact, the real-world consequences, and being part of the conversation about how to create a more just and equitable society.
Beautifully said. Thanks for taking us on this journey through the Texas court system. It's been eye-opening, thought-provoking, and honestly pretty entertaining too.
The pleasure was all mine. It's always a privilege to explore these issues, to unpack these cases, and to spark those important conversations about the law and its role in our lives.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep learning. The legal world is vast and fascinating, and there's always something new to discover. Until next time.